Hey everybody, thank you for joining us. My name's Marty Chobot. I'm with Invicara. I've been working on BIM to FM for about a dozen years now in a very kind of wide range of capacities. It's been an interesting problem, and at the end of the day, I worked for a facility management software company, and we worked with a wide range of industries, wide range of customers. But once we got into the whole BIM arena, one of the first things I was able to do was go out and talk to my customers. And consistently, I would ask them, how long does it take you to get your for a new building, how long does it take you to get your data and get your operational systems up and running, right? And invariably what I heard was it was 3 to 6 months to get the handover package, get all the information from the contractor, right? 3 to 6 months. Then after that, it would take us anywhere from 6 months to a year to go through that, if we did. A lot of times, you know, it was such a mess. It was so unstructured. There's a lot of documents. There's a lot of paper still, CDs, PDFs, unusable information that would take a ton of effort to wade through, right? So a lot of times, you know, y'all know this, you manage facilities, you get busy, you're running a building, you've got a lot of demands on your time. A lot of times it just doesn't happen at all. So now the problem with that is, you know, a year, 2 years into running your building, you may have missed critical maintenance tasks. You may have voided warranties on very expensive assets. You may have missed regulatory inspections. So there's a lot of risk involved. There's a lot of cost. So now I'm really lucky. You're looking here at these guys, and let me put this slide up. These panelists here that you're looking at, they represent over 100 years of experience in design, construction, and operation of medical facilities. And they are all working on projects, whether it's Children's Arkansas, Seattle Children's, University of California, San Francisco. They are all doing this right now, and they are getting their buildings ready on day one. So what I want y'all to walk away from today, if you walk away with one thing, what would my life be like if I could have all the data, all the documents, everything I need to run my building, to be ready for regulatory compliance before I even take occupancy of the building? What would that mean to my operations? So that's what we're here to do today. Actually, before I go into this, just out of curiosity, I like to ask this question whenever I get an opportunity. So if y'all can think back to your most recent project where you had a handover, how long did it take you to get the data? Did you get everything up and running in less than 6 months? Raise your hand. One hand. Did you get everything up and running in 6 to 12 months? All right, so that's starting to track. 12 to 18 months? A couple of hands? Never. Never got it all. Well, that's good. There's no hands on that. but 6 to 12 months was the vast majority. So that's what we're trying to change. All right. So I'm also going to be doing the introductions here today, and then I'll sit down and let these people that have a ton more experience than me talk. Our first speaker today is Tim Luke. He's the co-founder of Basepin with his wife, Kim. They're a consulting and technology firm. I've known Tim for, a dozen years now, since we met at AU a million years ago. But they specialize in managing digital data, setting up the protocols, helping owners actually define what are our processes and our policies going to be for the whole project team so that we all work together and collaborate to get the data that we need. He's also launched Basepin Connect based on his field validation practices. It's a software package that helps him manage documents, all the transmittal and communication, and keep all the project team members working together. And he's got more than 45 years in construction. I think started on the ground floor and worked your way up. So take it away, please.
Thank you, Marty. Yeah, good afternoon. I'm going to talk about the potential of technology in construction. And I believe that where we're at today is that technology gives us tools that make it possible to design and build healthcare facilities without a single conflict or claim that's related to design issues. And That's an important thing to think about, and a wonderful goal to have in your organizations, to think about eliminating the pain, the costs, the delays, all of those things that are negative outcomes that you don't expect when you kick off a project. An important step in achieving this result is to create business rules that enable the technology that's used be used to its fullest potential. That last point is where we, over the years, have observed in the BIM, the emergence of BIM, before that CAD, 3D modeling, 2D, the whole emergence of technology in design and construction, where we've been associated with or talked to people involved with projects where the expectations failed to be met, or there are some projects where we've seen them actually have the bonding company take over the project over BIM-related issues. Almost every case, you could go back and see that there was not a clear understanding of what the owner expected and what was required, not only of the design team, but of the contractors, the commissioning team, and flowing into operations. For legal purposes, traditional contracts require technology to be converted to paper for decision makers, who then create paper solutions that are converted back to technology for use by the team. So you're taking technology, you're creating paper. You're making paper decisions, converting them back to technology. In that process, kind of the RFI, the ASI, those types of things have a tremendous impact on the project, slowing it down, creating a lot of extra bureaucratic paperwork. I'm going to just touch briefly on two current healthcare projects that we're working with right now that have adopted rules for technical tools. They've done this at early and schematic design. One is based on the AIA guidelines, and the other is an owner-written program. Either one works depending on the organization and the team members that you have and how you write your contracts. I believe that owners have a right to expect that the use of technology by their project teams will improve project delivery. This is a very easy thing to measure. Look at the promises, look at the expectations when you start, and then do a forensic post-mortem and say, what was the result? We're doing projects, frankly, where the expectation, even with all of the contracts and due diligence, I would grade them at between a 40 and 60% result. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it tells us we have room to improve and to continually upgrade this process and learn from what we've done. Technology creates digital data. Everything we do nowadays is managed on devices. Most of the information that we have is stored in some kind of electronic form. Communications, drawings, specifications, designs, all of these are electronic format. So we have to use technology to function. This is something that I've really focused on over the years in helping especially owners define what their digital data and BIM requirements are, is to not think of digital data as a uniform body of information, but to think about it of two very distinct types of information. Common shared is things like contract documents, BIM CAD files, issues, submittals, etc., where the whole team basically has access to, contributes, and uses this information. That's the majority of the design construction process. Then there's confidential non-shared contract agreements, costs, payments, proprietary facility data. Those are confidential non-shared information. The types of technology used to manage those sets of information, I think, should be different than the types that you're using to manage the efforts of a very large collaborative project. So our recommendation is to select software that's designed to best manage the type of digital data used by the team. One size fits all. There's a lot of great stories about that, but that's a very difficult thing to achieve. Building information models, they're a form of digital data, and they're basically a combination of building geometry and systems information. On the right, we have a Revit model, an air handling unit. This is Seattle Children's, just being built right across town here right now. And on the left is the data that's associated with that air handling unit. The quality of that data, what it's named, format, that's all over the planet when you go into a Revit model. Unless the owner dictates or mandates some sort of standard for Revit family development, data placeholders and buckets inside the model, you're going to get what the design team brings to the table. And there's ways to work around that, but this is kind of where the information part of it begins to impact you on the contract side. Rules for tools is our term, having all this electronic information. And how do we set up the rules that define the owner's expectation for adding value? Well, we start with contracts that define the project technology requirements. This is not something I recommend that's unilaterally done by the owner and then sort of dictated. I think you do this in partnership with design members, with contractors, with facility folks, with people that are impacted, all the stakeholders. The more you can gather their feedback and information, the more you can make decisions that will actually work. I think there's three elements to a well-written digital data BIM management program. The first is a contract exhibit that every party to that project has in their contract an exhibit that says, this is how the project will use, manage, and rely on digital data and BIM. It can be a one-page. It doesn't have to be a big, massive BIM execution plan of 60 pages. It can be just an exhibit that's in there up front that sets the ground rules. That then works in concert with the digital data protocol. So you have your digital data types of communications, meeting minutes, supplemental instructions, contract documents, specifications, etc., CAD BIM files. This digital data protocol defines what these digital data types are. Is it PDF? Is it Microsoft? Is it Revit? Is it a DWG file? It talks about the transmission method, whether it's email or through a cloud server, maybe a targeted hyperlink. And the authorized uses. Is this to be used by the team at large? Is it to be modified? You know, what are the rules regarding the information that's being passed around in the project? The BIM protocol focuses on, I think, the most important thing is the model element table, which is something that defines the level of development that the model elements will have, and it will have the authorized use and then a scheduled milestone. This simple tool can be as complex or simple if you like, but what the heart of this does is that if you think about our industry where design teams have a disclaimer that they require everyone to sign before they'll just give you a design model, and the disclaimer says you cannot use this model for any useful purpose. And that's what they say. What you are required to use is the instruments of service, which is two-dimensional drawings. The day the project starts, those drawings are obsolete and archaic and a historic view of where the job was, and most of them aren't constructible. So if we're not able to use and share the models, then we've limited the use of technology. We've taken away one of the main benefits. And to protect the author of that model, the authorized use piece says you can use it for these specific authorized uses. If you use it for something else, the risk is on you and not on the model provider. That's a really powerful tool, and I think AIA has done some great work with this in their AIA E203 series. The BIM protocol also defines who the model element authors are. We like to break it into design models, to construction models and owner models, and then define what each company that comes to the project is going to provide, and at what point they're going to provide that and hand it off. So we like to see design models, LOD 300, flowing into construction models, LOD 400, flowing into facility models, LOD 500. Defining that isn't how much information that you cram into those models, but how applicable is it to the owner at the end of the project and what they need to manage their facility. Shared digital data management technology is a major decision that you'll make on these projects. Most project teams use email as their central digital data management technology, and the email means that it connects all these different software systems that everybody's using and allows you to communicate, but that main source of collaboration is email. A shared digital data management technology takes the project team of your owner, your contractor, designers, engineers, subs, suppliers, and it creates what we call a shared truth cloud. The truth is in the cloud. If I'm looking for the latest retail level lobby plan or the latest OR plan for lighting or equipment layout, I can go to the appropriate provider of that information. I can go to this location and get the document that's the latest, that's approved for that use, and I will not find any other versions unless I go into the archive queues. That way, the team is able to quickly and accurately always access the latest information they need, and it eliminates the hunt and peck and search and opening zip files and package PDFs. It also eliminates the potential that they grab the wrong version and are working off of older, improper information. If someone has data to create or modify, it goes into the cloud. The cloud then manages the distributions to the team on who needs to know and what the information is. All of the input that comes back from these different team members goes back into the cloud. Everything's logged and tracked and made in the history documents in a location where you can quickly and easily find it and have it for your records. Part of that also is the coordinated BIM. So your models are always following the same process as the construction documents for version control, access, and updating. Digital data access, approval, and BIM lead roles. This is something we're really beginning to develop over the last couple of years, 2-3 years. Any facility that has security requirements at the physical building, think about it, like a data center or a critical care facility or a public health facility, anything that requires physical security, think about, well, what's the cyber security that we have on this project? Who has access into the drawings, the information, the people that are involved? Who is accessing this information? Do we know who they are? Do we know who they work for? Are they actually authorized to be part of this contractually, or did they leave the company 6 months ago and go to some other one of our competing, franchises, and they still have access? This is a big problem. And so what we're working with is there's an owner, Sabi, that is doing medical and data center work quite a bit, where they've designated access approval contacts for each one of their properties and facilities. The org chart, which is smart and understands the contracts on the project, says, okay, I know who the access approval contact, if someone requests a new member, it goes to the access approval contact. That person is an employee of the company. If they authorize that, that person gets access into the system, and that's logged. The system also tracks, well, who are the BIM leads? This is a significant role because they're the designated contractual person within each model element author company that's going to be responsible to represent that firm for the quality and the timeliness and the deliverables of their models. That way you don't find any finger pointing in any of your suppliers. Owner contract requirements example, Seattle Children Building Cure. They've 3 years ago set up the project on AIA E203 2013 with the AIA G201 digital data protocol and the AIA G202 protocol. Now 3 years into the project, that team has seamlessly shared models from design to construction. The commissioning team will validate the field information, make, model, serial number, etc., which will be populated back into those models and prepared to go into the CMMS system. Private owner here, Sabi, 18th Avenue. This is a brand new project just coming out of the ground in late SDs, early DDs. They have their own internal program, which we help them author, which is the Sabi Digital Data and Building Information Model Management Program. That's comprehensive. It doesn't just look at BIM. It looks at everything, including the contracts and the exhibits. The benefits of this approach, and these are some that I think are kind of the main ones, is that you have a repeatable owner program. Rather than an owner having to be adapting to all of the supplier programs, technology, and methods that they bring, it's the owner's methodology. You're sharing models in real time. You're able to use that technology to quickly make decisions and not send it through the costly and cumbersome RFI process. BIM then build in lieu of BIM while build. I think most of our industry has been in the BIM while we're building. We write the contracts, we get the design models with the disclaimers, and then we run clash and find out, whoa, we have 11,000 clashes on the first floor. And as we filter them, we begin the process of making this constructible while construction is proceeding and money is being spent. BIM then build means that we do this process early on, ahead of the construction procurement. Now we engage the contractor in a way that the designs, when they're finally released, that the costs and the designs are constructible and the building can be put up by the trades in the field without them having to discover all the problems. This lowers risk and exposure to all parties, not just the owner, but everyone involved. It creates a project collaborative culture, and I think leads to owner satisfaction. So thanks for your time.
All right, thanks a lot, Tim. Our next speaker is Bruce Mace. He's currently the Director of FM for the University of California, San Francisco Health Regional Hospital System. He's been in architecture and design, 2D, 3D, design and construction. That's where he started his career. And about 13 years ago, he switched focus to operations. So he's got a great view of both design and construction. So a firm believer in BIM and data, and I'll let you go from there.
Great. All right. Let's see. Fired up here. Can everybody hear me? All right. I'm a walker. I got to look around. So real quick, I'm Director of Facilities for UCSF, as he stated. My job is to run hospitals. That's my core mission. Many years ago, we started looking at Revit, and we were looking at Autodesk, and we're looking at IBM. When I took on my job, first thing they told me is my CMMS is going away. That was a shocker, because I'm not a software guy. I'm not doing enterprise implementations. But we jumped on it, and we chose IBM Maximo. So for this discussion, IPD, you all know what that is, integrated project delivery. We've been working on it as an industry for 10, 15 years, and we're getting real good product out of it. Collaboration, clash, compressing timelines, very, very valuable. BIM as an output, data, building information modeling. This is where my eyes perked up many years ago. Started looking at the data. What's in there that we can use to run hospitals to make a safer environment of care? That was the big deal. There's a lot of data there. I heard from a lot of people that delivered projects that we deliver BIM, we get through with it, give it to the owner turns around, sets it down. So we didn't want to do that. Enterprise alignment, real important. Matt Steen talked about this yesterday. We align what we're doing with BIM for FM to support the environment of care, integrating design and architecture, construction, and now operations based on the 80-20 rule. Really important. Came from 2D architecture, flat information written down, basically trapped in 2D. Now we've moved on to now we're getting 3D, object-based architecture with metadata attached to the objects in the architecture. And that's the gold. That's what we're going for. And PCMB, Precision Cancer Medicine Building, we have a new hospital we built several years ago, came online in February 2015, called Mission Bay. Our first project where we're doing exactly what Tim was talking about, building this in contract. We did that work. We probably did 80% of what Tim was talking about, and it got us to where we're at. We're going to try to do more here. My kids ask me what we do. This is what we do over here. This is Mission Bay Hospital, and that represents about the 5% that touches facilities. I early on thought, wow, if I could get 5% of the data coming out of a construction build in BIM, I can operate a hospital 100 times better than I've been able to do so previously. So keep the threshold for us, keep the threshold low enough that we can get over it. So our 5% model. We went into precision cancer coming out of our Mission Bay Hospital. You got to prove these things out. What's the value? Why does it work? And this was the first real eye-opener. This is actually Mission Bay Hospital, 11:15 at night, for any of you who are facilities folks, and a lot of you are. Leak coming down, emanating in the kitchen. Engineers couldn't figure it out. It's middle of the night on Sunday night. My chief engineer, myself, we got there 45 minutes later after they called us, and for the first time ever, we ran for the model. So we ran for our 3D model, sat in the office. We put an engineer on the first floor, engineer on the second floor, and we had them start isolating systems. So instead of punching holes in what turns out was a 7-story structural piece of steel with a 2 inches worth of fire rock around it, we did it digitally. We got to the 4th floor within 90 minutes. We were in an OR in the model, and we turned off a system, isolated it, and guess what? The guy down on the 1st floor said, that's it, no more water. So we had, in effect, without punching a hole, in less than 90 minutes diagnosed and isolated a system that was causing a lot of damage. We tented it. We got our mechanical guy en route. He got there by 3:30 a.m. We had it contained already, and he said, it's over here. We said, no, Mark, it's over here. We're sure. He said, no, he did all the brazing. He said, it's over here. So we tented. He went in the tent, punched a hole. There was nothing there. We said, Mark, over here, come on. Got him into our tent, punched a hole, and we were 16 inches off. Our leak was right there. We had it repaired. The OR opened at 8 a.m. with containment, and we had the kitchen up and going as well. And that was a real eye-opener, what this can do for us from an operational perspective. This is us, or facilities typically, operations. We've added in now the construction because we're specifying this back in contract, back in Tim's world here, by specifying the output. And then we're going to be adding, or are adding right now, facilities conditions assessment for the already built. BIM for FM is the being built. And our future for generating 3, 5, and 10-year forecasts, generating capital cost asks of our senior leadership, all going to be coming out of this model with some real data behind it. What we want to try to find out of a system, and this is actually our building, if I get a leak in a plumbing right there, it'll tell me there's my isolation valve, there's my downstream impact of going dry, here's my information on the system, and guess what? All those orange columns are 2 foot by 2 foot. We stuck them on every mechanical device that needed actuation. At the end of the project, we'll turn them off. But in the field right now, we have access to all our valves, which is pretty phenomenal for an engineering group. In November, 7 months ago, University of California office president came over. We sat down with them. We're showing them what we're doing. They wanted to get COBE data out of the build project. They thought they could save $70 million over the UC system if they could get COBE data on what went into the project to do procurement for the system. We said, yeah, here, you just tell us what you want to specify coming out. You're just a train stop on our continuum. And he said, great. We were showing him this, and he said, you can validate it. We can go out in the field and validate it. And once again, another big light bulb. I took him up to the 5th floor. We looked out the back, and I showed him the model we'd been in, the information he was looking at. That was the actual situation there. We were grade beams just coming out of the earth. So we were very much ahead of, when you're talking 6 to 12 months to gather this data, at that point we were 6 to 12 months ahead of where we normally would have been. And then real quick, Maximo. We stood this version up 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 7.6.09, and there's your assets. This is Maximo, so IBM product. Open up assets, just choose one. And this is our active CMMS system, all my engineers. We got about 150 of them on it right now. This is for PCMB building that's being built right now. All your standard informations. Go to 3D. This is Autodesk large model viewer on the Forge platform from within Maximo. We have, this is the exterior model for this construction. Being built right now. The skin's just gone on. There's no closing in yet whatsoever. There's the various trade construction models that are going into the build. At the end of the day, when we take ownership, it's going to be a facility-centric, living as built, living as operated model that'll become our single source of truth. Air handler up on the roof. Really fun. Air handler 7. In the old days, that would have been air handler 1. All my engineers would go up on the roof and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then start with 1 again. So real simple things that are going to make our operational lives a lot easier. They're validating, our field engineers are out there, they validate all the access, they're validating valves, doing it all electronically. I just selected another bag in, bag out filter there, part of the project coming out of the model. There's our submittal data. It's all available on our handhelds, on our iPads, and engineers can have access to that, what would normally be a 3-hour trip around the facilities office to gather information. Back to the model real quick. This is me driving the model, so you got to bear with me a little bit on the moving around part. There's all of our access 2x2s. At the end of the project, they'll get turned off and just leave us with perfect access everywhere. Here's the plumbing model. And these are real. This is a week ago. Go in here, select something like a shower, type it in, go look for an asset if you want to find one. We don't have showers, so we have eye wash type showers for safety. Lo and behold, select one. There it is. There's your asset. We have a shower there in this building. There's the actual model, the asset, unique identifier. Now I want to know about that shower if I'm an engineer. Go down, take a look at properties. Here you go. Facility-centric data coming out of the model into Maximo. And these are being populated right now as we speak. We're going to be opening this building in April, and it's all populating right now. Because I'm in Maximo, I can open a work order. I can look at a history of work orders. I can be in the building viewing. Take questions afterwards here. All the information that'll populate. I can take a look at, here's the BIM object information that goes into the model. And then more importantly, from our perspective, will be actually all the information on the shower, the spec, procurement, type, size. It's all available as a piece of submittal information as well, and the history in the software. So anyway, this is an integration of Maximo and Revit 2017. It's a fabrication model, so they are actually fabricating from this. And just for laughs, here's equipment. We're looking at equipment that's important to facilities. So you got some big CTs in there, and this is our next steps. We're going to work on some equipment that's important to us. And thank you. Really appreciate it. All right.
Thank you, Bruce. Our third speaker is George McFerrin. George's the Facility Operations Manager for Arkansas Children's Northwest. So that's the newest children's hospital in the country, just recently brought online, and provides health care for more than 250,000 children. He started his career at a rural hospital in Arkansas in 1992, and he took the preventive maintenance program from paper-based to an automated CMMS. He's also worked as a commissioning agent, a consultant, and led the transition to operations for a large replacement hospital with Mercy Health Systems in Arkansas. So, George.
It's a privilege to be here with you. I think what we're learning today is there's a lot of great technology, and what we want to do with that is take that to where you are today. And as everyone has a team, everyone has new projects, everyone has things going on. And the important thing is bridging that gap and realizing your most important asset are your people. We can give you all the technology in the world, but as we're talking about today, it's at our fingertips. It's here, but how do we use that? And so my goal today is I want to share with you just that we did it. And we did it at a small hospital, and we did it with limited resources, and we did it with some experts, and we were able to get the data in. And in a nutshell, we were ready on day one. When Joint Commission arrived and when we had first patient day, we had over 2,700 pieces of equipment with make, model, serial number, location, training videos, and O&Ms all ready to go. And how many of y'all flew here, or flew, right? All right, so what we've been asking our technicians to do over the years is to get into the plane. How many of y'all would fly with a pilot home tonight or tomorrow that had never flown that plane before, but they expected it was built and ready to go, and they'd never read the O&M or anything like that. How many of y'all would get in that plane? No hands. One brave soul, okay? But that's what we're asking, and that's what we've been asking our technicians to do. We got this brand new hospital, we got this brand new wing. Oh, here's a pile of all this paper, here's all this stuff. Oh, read about it, and oh, by the way, the first patient day is tomorrow. And that's what we've been asking our technicians to do. So my encouragement to you today is to look that these tools are available. And we use the data model like what was mentioned, BIM 360, and BIM 360. And we took a program called BIM Ops 360 and tied those two together. BIM Ops 360 is a software that we are leveraging for our CMMS. And it works really, really well. Works on your iPhone, works on iPad. And basically you take the data is dumped from the model right into the BIM Ops 360 CMMS software. And that's how we're able to do that. Now, the key to being able to do that was being able to populate that data and the O&M data with a team effort. And that team effort meant we had to really work hard at building the team that would get their buy-in. So we had to get the facility operations. These are 4 of our technicians right here. We had to get their buy-in. And what that meant was we had to work really hard to get their understanding of how important it was that they were out there with their eyes and their ears and looking and seeing, is the model accurate? And as the building was being built, we were able to bring on the team early. And I want to encourage y'all, if you can do that, get your facility operations team involved early. We got them involved early, and they were actually taking the BIM model and walking and looking and seeing where equipment was being placed. And we identified some equipment that was in the wrong places. And you know how some situations are. People are going to do what they want to do, because they say, well, that's where it's supposed to go. And they're just going to put it there anyway, knowing you can't access it or anything. No one's ever had that problem, right? Papa Seal and Tile said, well, how are we going to get to that thing? Well, it's kind of like the little boy, I'm from Arkansas. In Arkansas, it's kind of like the little boy that he had a dog and he wanted to give him a bath. So he decided that he was going to go down to the general store and get some soap. So he went down there and he said, I need some soap. And he said, okay. And the general store guy said, I'll sell you some soap. And he said, well, no, I need laundry detergent soap. And he goes, well, no, this is what you need. No, I want laundry detergent soap. So reluctantly, the general store sold him that laundry soap. And what happened was, that little boy went home and he washed the dog, and the general store manager comes out and he says, what, how'd it work out with your dog? He said, oh, the soap worked out really good, but that spin cycle, man, it didn't work out so good. But sometimes people are they're just mindset, they're going to do what they're going to do no matter what. And that's where we have to look at the team. So on our team, our transition operations, we put together facility operations, facility operators on the team. We had the commissioning agent on the team. We had subcontractors on the team. We had designers on the team. And we put all this collaborated team together. And by doing so, we had the kickoff meetings, and we were able to work and get all this information together and put it all in, and began 8 months prior to the building opening. We had information and data in, live data, real equipment data in, make, model, serial number, and location area served. So as we did this thing, we were able to do that, and we used our team members to do the actual tagging of the equipment. It's like Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify. Is it really there? So you put the tag on there, yes, this equipment is really here. So again, these models, all this technology is great, but it takes a team effort to put it all together. And we have some great technology in BIM, and I think that we're not using it to its full potential. And I think with the BIM 360 CMMS program that we have, I think it's been able to help us to see how great it can be. Because at your fingertips, you have all this information, and you have this transitional team put together. And you can go out and tag that information, and make, model, and all that is right there. Scan the QR code, and the entire information comes up on all that piece of equipment. Not only does it have the make, model, serial number, location, but it also has the training video there, has the O&Ms there right in hand. So as y'all are in large hospitals, small projects, big projects, It doesn't matter, what it is, but you remember how the days were, as is already mentioned. Some of these projects, you get this big stack of binders. I'm dating myself, flopped on your desk, or they roll in a rolling cabinet. It's like, where's all? And you have to spend days looking for it. Or now you get it on a flash drive, but it's one PDF and it's all these documents, and it's not even searchable. So you're just like, wow. And then you have to work on something. And then something else we did as well with our BIM Ops program is we did a transition operations with also all of our team. So one of the challenges we have is getting our C-suite sold on what we're doing and understand what we're doing. So here's what we did. We took BIM Ops and we used it to also track our warranty tickets. So as we transitioned into the new hospital, we took our program called BIM Ops 360. We loaded a building on there, just a generic building called TOP, Transition Operations. And so my Vice President of Operations, the Executive Vice President of Operations, all the way down to housekeeping, could use this program to put in a work order for a problem. So we had, guess how many work orders we had, warranty issues that came up before we even opened on January 1. Now, we gave this to them in October, so by January 1 we had 1,700 work orders on a 250,000 square foot facility. And the general contractor's like, wow! But you know what? What helped this is down the road, it helped them to not have to come back 6 months later and fix something. We fixed it before the first patient arrived. And so that was a great tool that we used. And people loved it so much they would go home, some of the people that were not even, and look at BIM Ops and just learn the hospital. Oh, look what so-and-so put in. So, it's a great tool. It was a great tool. As mentioned already, we have these devices. We have cell phones, we have iPads, and right here on BIM Ops 360, right here on your cell phone, you can pull up work order history. You can pull up the BIM model. You can pull up training videos. You can pull up any kind of data you want about any piece of equipment. Right there, right at your fingertips. And with iPhones, the way they are today, it's great. And I showed a picture of the different ages of our team, and now we have a gentleman named Grandpa in there. We call him Grandpa, and Grandpa loves it. Grandpa loves it. I mean, he's saying, "Man, my grandkids are jealous because I can use this at work." So I know we have an aging workforce out there, so I encourage y'all to say, this. Don't let that become an obstacle. Let that become something that's a great challenge for them and a great tool for them they can be proud of. So being Joint Commission ready on day one, when Joint Commission life safety surveyor comes in, being able to be ready and compliant on day one. That's a challenge. As mentioned, your hands went up, 6-8 months down the road. Joint Commission will be at your front door pretty quickly. So we're able to get over 2,500 assets with make, model, serial number, location, area served in the system on day one. When Joint Commission arrived, we had it all there before first patient day. In fact, we had some information already rolling that the contractors had put in there on work orders and history. So we go back and look at those pieces of equipment. It's a great tool. And on my initial survey, and I'm going to close with this, I'll remember this for as long as I can think. Okay, which right now I can't think very well. But we were on our survey, and a life safety surveyor was working with us. We've been there, and we were doing the tour. And he said, "George, I'd like to pull a history on this piece of equipment." I said, "Oh, okay." And I pulled out my iPhone. He thought, he's going to call somebody, run down there and get some equipment. We'll get paperwork on the equipment. I pulled up my iPhone, pulled BIM 360 up, pulled the model up, zoomed in on the piece of equipment. He said, you want to look at this? He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, you want the history on it?" Pushed it, said, "Yeah, here it is." And this is his quote: "With this technology, I might come out of retirement." And the survey went really, really well after that. "Show me that tour again. Show me that tool again." And he's like, "Wow." So leveraging that technology, but the key, great technology, but we've got to get buy-in from our team, and our team being all of us, designers, owners, facility technicians, commissioning agents, all of us work together to get information together. So go out there, get the technology. It's affordable. And build that team and make life a lot easier on you if you can. Okay? All right, thank you, George.
And our final speaker today on the panel is Mark Shear. He's also known as the BIM Yoda, so don't get him mad. He's a BIM application specialist at Bernhard TME. He's got 22 years of construction and engineering design experience. Also an adjunct professor at Arizona State University on the subject of building commissioning and startups. And he recently worked with George on the startup of the Arkansas Children's Northwest Hospital, implementing their policy, checking the data, and getting that CMMS up and running. So, Mark.
Thanks, sir. So I don't know if I'm Yoda because of the way I look or because of what's up here, but I think we know it's because of the way I look. So we saw some different processes today. But how many of you used your phone during this presentation? 100% of us probably. So you transmitted data, right? So why aren't we using this to manage our facilities? If we can, so we can take a picture of a piece of equipment that's broken. We can take a picture of a data tag. We can take a picture of a manufacturer's. We can take all kinds of data and share it right here. So why are we still doing things the old way? Why don't we look at what's moving forward and how to find a different way to use data? I'm sorry? You can tell us why? Yeah.
Because admin won't approve the dollars to buy the iPhones, and IT won't let us put them in because of cybersecurity.
I understand that. So that's where we have to set a goal, is we have to show the ROI that we can get with that. We had the same problem, Chet, with IT at Arkansas Children's. But we showed them how we were going to save money. We showed them how we were going to save steps. Now, we've got this goal of complete data before the first day of operation. Anybody want to take a guess of how much data we had before February 23rd of 2018? On 233,000, basically. We call it 250, we round up. Anybody want to take a guess?
Terabyte. Terabyte.
A terabyte? No, not quite. We had 29.6 gig of data collected before we ever opened the hospital. That includes preventive maintenance procedures. Have y'all heard that? The job plans? We had those running before we opened that facility. So that was our goal. Now, I'm going to admit this in front of y'all. I don't want to. We didn't make our goal. I hate to say that, especially in front of Chet and George and my bosses over here. We did not make our goal because we found holes in our process along the way, and we worked to fix those holes. We thought we would make a better process. So we worked, that team concept helped us achieve our goal, and our goal, what we delivered, was actually better than our initial goal that we originally went after. So you've heard 3 different processes here. All of them work. All of them work well. It's what you want, how you want to do it. It's how you want to formulate it in your mind. Me, Arkansas country boy, very simple approach. A, B, C, and D. So we look at the design process, we look at the model. We take the data that we need, not the data that the contractors or the engineers want us to have. That's the mindset change that that's got to take place. On George's project, we went after what is Joint Commission going to be looking at. That was our goal. That's where we strived for. So construction, we built the model. We coordinated the model with the engineers and architectural models. We didn't change their process. We let them operate as normal. So what did that do to the price of our job? It kept it the same because we kept the contractors in their mode of operation. We had a commissioning agent on the job. Where does the commissioning data go on a project? Does it get, I'm sorry? In a closeout binder that collects dust. So what if we use the commissioning data as BIM data? That makes that data very valuable, and we can get that data early on. And then the non-commissioned assets, how do we get that? George, how do we get non-commissioned asset data? By the facilities team. That helps them learn the building as it's being built. And that made for a successful handover to operations, as George said with BIM 360 Ops, made a successful transition with Maximo. And the legalities, we cannot forget the legalities of contracts. As bad as we hate to say it, we're in a world that sues each other. We've got to watch out for the engineers, the architects, your owners. You've got to watch out for each other, but you've got to assemble that team that watches out for each other in whatever shape, form, or contract that is. So here is a very simplistic approach of what you need to gather. So we've got a Revit model, which is different than a BIM model. Your construction people do not have to be in Revit. They can be in AutoCAD 3D. That is BIM as well. Well, it's a misconception. Sometimes, okay, how many of you have had a bad BIM project? With no data, let's don't even worry about data, just coordination. It almost becomes building impossible information instead of building information modeling. I hate that. So we get BIM, we get the submittals, just like what we showed earlier. We get the commissioning documents, and then we get field verification. We get the design documents. Why is it important that we have design documents, and as well as the commissioning documents? Because we need to know how that building was designed. Then we also need to know how it's operating, because that leads to energy inefficiency or energy efficiency. Then we got to find a way to collaborate all that data, verify all that data, because that's something that's not happening today, and then push that into whatever CMMS we're using. There's a lot of quality CMMSs on the market. We saw several here. It's very easy to do it if you do it in the right way. So my commissioning agent did not use the software. They used a spreadsheet. We made that spreadsheet work as part of our BIM process because we didn't want to change their mentality and put a cog in the wheel. We tried to keep everybody doing what they would normally do on this project. So, and that helped with our transition of the data, is because we had the data. The secret to all this, the secret sauce, is we required our data to be accessible by the time we took, by substantial completion. How many of you have had a data spec, a facilities management data spec issued as part of the architectural engineering specs? Ooh. You need to think about that. George, how long was our spec on Arkansas Children's for data? Just data. 78 pages. But it started out as 36. And then the contractors asked us to make it more. They wanted to know exactly what was going on. They wanted to know who collected what data. So this was our process that we came up with. Who collected what, how they collected what. The review. Make sure that your data is reviewed before it goes into your CMMS. Critical. We don't want to mess up your CMS. You don't need your CMMS messed up. We don't need incorrect preventive maintenance procedures being done to void warranties. Analyze that data. Run it through processes. Marty has a where you can write joint commission rules in Marty's process to look to see if the data meets that criteria. Room names never change in a building, or room numbers, do they? During design and construction? Wouldn't you like to run a rule to know if it meets your naming and numbering nomenclature? That's analyzing the data. It can be done fairly easy now with the technology. A very simple workflow. This is part of it. I put that in here. It's just very simple. But it's easy to follow if we just rearrange our thinking process. So here's the validation. The architect on this particular job, love them. They do great work. But inside of Revit, they used a different parameter to mark their fire doors. So when I run a schedule for fire doors, I was thinking, yeah, this is great. Guess how many fire doors showed up? None. So I ran a rule, come up with, 143 fire doors? Something like that. So think about some of these processes and get the data correct. So here's some keys to success. Integrate your process. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Take what you're doing that's already good and just simply modify it to get the data that you want and need. The data spec. Make sure you start thinking about a data spec. There's actually a sample. There's a sample data spec in the app that you can download and look at. Standardize your naming nomenclatures just like we had AHU1, AHU7. Make sure that we know what's going on. I ran into that problem on this job, on Arkansas Children's as well. In the plant, we had AHU1. In the hospital, we had AHU1. Could be a little bit of a problem, but we made it work. So, submit your evaluations if you like to. Questions? Yes? So the question is, who is going to be updating the models? So for Arkansas Children's, they've hired a consultant to keep up with the model. Now, there are so technology is ever advancing, right? There's newer methods that we may not even need the model, and we may be able to do it with scans instead of models. We use the model to start with, but then we use a scan to know what's behind all these walls. And that's what you're looking at instead of the model. So you're actually looking at real time, or not real time, but real data. And so that way you just got a camera to update instead of a model. Uh-huh. That is correct, and that's Mr. Chet back here. The non-legal description of what we're going to deliver was an as-built data Revit model, which we pushed all of the commissioning data back into the Revit model. And so he has an as-built Revit model, and then he has a firm that will be updating that. Also, the administrative assistant for George will be learning Revit as well. Yes, sir.
If I can, for UCSF, recognizing that it's a living as operated model, single source of truth that we are going to be viewing through our CMMS. Changes made, large project, we have our BEP and our data dictionary applying to larger contractors and architects. The smaller guys, we have a person on our team that my architecture group said, okay, we're going to hire a new architect. We said, time out. Let's hire an architect BIM person. We got a Revit specialist, works 3 days a week in architecture, 2 days a week on our team, and we'll be in charge of the geospatial changes to that model. Data changes are bilateral between Maximo and Revit, so you can change data on either side. It'll inform the other. So, good question.
Yes.
You want to
Let's take two more. I know it's 4:15. If you need to leave, feel free to leave. We'll stay and answer questions as long as we need to.
No problem. Just quick, when you make this initial data dump, if you want to call it that, although you started at the beginning through, who did you use to do that? Was that in-house FTEs, or did you contract resources to help you do all the data, to populate the CMS, to populate the COBE?
For UCSF, we have an internal team. It was originally put into place, 2 database scientists, 2 programmers, and a solutions architect supported by both the educational side and my side in the health. And we also are getting support from UCOP. So it's an internal team. We use some outside resource, but then it's a milestones sort of dump as you scrub that data and move it over into Maximo.
And how about an I know you did tagging internal teams, but how about all the other data, all the submittal data, all the equipment data?
You're looking at him. So, interesting story on that. I used to be 180 pounds and I had a head full of hair back then before I started working with George. So interesting story about that. So my setup, so I was the one that implemented George's, I'll say that. But the receptionist actually did some of my data work for me, the lady that answers our phone at work. And then also my travel coordinator, she actually set up my BIM 360 field and all the parameters that George wanted for all his pieces of equipment. So she set up over 92 different asset types and then hundreds of parameters by just me showing her what I wanted and she's my travel coordinator. So I was able to use talent inside of our building that necessarily weren't BIM. Yes?
She built all your databases.
The starting up databases, yes.
Question here that I saw that it's your BIM and your CMMS been integrated. Is that the two-way integration or one-way? Meaning that if you go in, change the filter or something in your CMMS, is that going to change the model and update the model automatically, or you need to manually go update the model?
For UCSF, we're currently, it's a one-way. We have a project we're working on, and within the next 28 months, we want it to be a true bilateral exchange so that data information could be changed either in the model or it could be changed in this case Maximo, and it would inform the other. So that is our goal in the next, we're going pretty quick.
And we're the same way. Unless you just want to spend a ton of money and write the scripts for all that, which would be very expensive to do right now, then that won't really work right now, the two-way, for what you specifically asked. Well, tongue-tied there.
Over here.
Yes.
Great presentation, guys. I appreciate it. Do your facilities technicians have the ability to update information in your Revit models on the fly while they're walking the site?
Yes. Yes, our facility technicians can update, they can actually update the equipment in our BIM Ops 360 program. As far as the BIM model is concerned, we would need to coordinate that. But we actually can update the information, but we need to go back and coordinate it.
So one of the things, our Revit models are in the cloud. So they're on the C4R platform. So they are accessible from the field if we need them to be. Now, they can make all kinds of changes to whatever they need to in Ops. We have them set up to do certain things. Well, some people we have set up to do certain things. We don't want to give free rein to every facility FTE, do we? That could be interesting. But there is some updating like that, yes. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.